Welcome, welcome everybody. Hi, how are you guys? Hello. Woo! Blessings. Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is really a delight, a treat, an honor to host an artist talk with this gentle soul and very creative, dynamic being. But before I begin our dialogue, I want to just say a few words. Jordan and I went to see, we were just cruising around, went to the torpedo factory, we were buzzing around and really liked this work. And just thought there were a few pieces that just really were so special, we were blown away. And then we thought, wow, this could look so gorgeous in the gallery. We could do beautiful justice to the story, and let's dig into this. And sometimes it takes a few months, sometimes it takes a couple of years to build a relationship and cultivated exhibition. But we walked into his studio and simply said, okay, this, that, this, oh, and this and this. And it was a candy store for us. So we couldn't wait to get these works up on the walls and hanging from our divine fishing wire, which I highly recommend to anybody who says they don't have the space on the wall, or they have a place, a bank of windows. So hang a beautiful painting with fishing wire and suspend it in front of the window. How elegant is that, right? Very beautiful. And that, yeah? Okay, so let's get to it. Couple notes. First of all, no more seats on the left. Only seats in the first bank. I'm going to refer to our artist here as Chukwudinma, because Chukwudinma, which is so antithetical to the American, because you want to go M-N, but is how he told me he would like to be referred to, and that he also told me that this was a new decision, and he felt very strongly, and that his name means God is good, and it's universal. It has, it extends beyond borders, and certainly beyond. It's multi-ideological, right? It covers a lot of ground, and it's an access point. And every traveler needs an access point. This man has observed how the human body moves, where it's going, where it might wind up for a long time. And grew up in Southeast Nigeria, in Oguta, and a very, very water-filled region. It's a lake region, called a lake region.
Biggest lake.
You're not allowed to talk yet. And the uli practice of design that just permeates the walls, murals, fabric even, yeah? But it's everyday design. And it's also incorporated must be incorporated into how you structure, how you think, how you move, how you groove. Must be.
My grandmother had it on her body.
Oh, and body decoration.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. So we're going to ask a bunch of questions about from whence he's come, and how important this is to your current work now. But I am very interested in also the journey. So first, let's just talk about going back to Oguta. Your mother was a teacher in the village, and your father a lawyer. This after, mind you, our first Western civilization exposure largely to Africa was through this part of the world. But we don't know what that was. It's called Biafra. You remember the Biafran War? This is the Igbo people.
Yeah.
So when I was a child, seeing these images, horrifying images, on our black and white television, I was very conscious of this. I'm a post-war journalist, so I think this stuck in my mind pretty strongly as the very first deprivation I ever saw. And it was these distended stomachs of malnutrition and starvation and one people trying to demolish another. So that was a pretty early image. I think that was in the early 60s, right? And yeah. So you go through this, you have this extraordinary life in Oguta, and then you become a very prominent painter, not only in Nigeria, but in Africa. You become a very distinguished painter, which is a very big deal in a very large continent. And then you come here, and this is your very first solo exhibition in the United States. It's a big deal. And you are using some of the same iconography, I'll call it, but it's design, that has been deployed by your people since the 9th century. And I would love you to explain all manner of ways you've incorporated into your various works. So welcome to you.
Thank you. She has said a lot of stuff, and I can't add anything, but I'm so grateful to have this show. And she said it very well. So let me just get into answering what she just asked me.
Is this working?
It's not. Let me see. No, it's not. So, okay. When you speak about incorporating the lines, because I come from the Nsukka school, which is also called the Uli school, I realized early on that the importance of the line, and the line, it's like a journey. I never forgot, when we were in high school, we were taught about a line. What is a line? It's a moving dot. I'm that dot that kept moving. And for me, with all of that energy, and then coming into a culture, into the Nsukka school, where the school told us to get back to our homes and incorporate traditional symbols from our homes. I felt this real connect. That's, I told you, like my grandmother had Uli on her hand. Like how you have tattoos. She had Uli.
What did the design look like?
It was like these very pure, like very deep blue line on her hand. And she was, she didn't go to school, but I think it was kind of like her name stylized, because there is something called Mawuli. Mawuli is like the ink that is used for drawing those lines on the human body, like tattoos. She lived with that tattoo forever. And straight, the wonderful thing, she was the only person that called me Chukwudinma till she died.
Wow.
Only person that kept calling me Chukwudinma. Every other person called me, Anthony or something, but but funny enough, her name was Antonia, but she never called me Anthony.
You shared a lot of names.
Yeah, but with the lines, when you spoke about the lines, I kept feeling that my undergraduate thesis was on my village, and I was looking at the culture of my village, trying to speak about giving it a modern voice. And I felt strongly that inculcating all the ideology from my village upbringing and all that into stories, that meetings and all that, was a very good way of bringing it present, bringing it to the front. And importantly, most importantly, one thing in my work that happens all the time is that I never forget the shimmering of the masquerades of my village. These bodies, it's always a moving, so movement is really vital in entertainment, in communicating ideas of reverence, of awe, of entertainment. And I just felt everybody has to move, because if you're not moving, you're not alive. So it's that liveliness that keeps, I just keep bringing it back on.
The party affiliates, the from the ballot boxes and Beasts of Burden. Can you talk about why you created that work and how it relates to sort of the politics and the democracy, or the ebbing of democracy in Nigeria and elsewhere?
Yeah.
Is this on for folks? That's working.
Well, it's from that my series Ballot Boxes and Beasts of Power, and it's coming from Africa. It's really this thing where you're living a life, even when you're away from all the noise follows you. You're never alone. So I got all this news from Nigeria about all the politics, and I'm in other spaces, so I'm questioning what I know back home. And I kept on comparing it with the cultures I was meeting in. I would go to places that I'm like thinking, okay, this must be heaven or close to it, and they're complaining. And then I'm like, I'm coming from hell, and I'm thinking I just made heaven, and everyone is saying the same thing. And it started making me to wonder, the thing about that party affiliates that you were speaking about. One day I was talking about it in the torpedo factory, and the next thing that happened was I was just saying, okay, back in Nigeria, blah, 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 blah. Somebody now said, same here. And I realized it's true, same here. And I stopped. I never said back in Nigeria again.
Oh, no. We know there's an inescapable comparison to the United States. We know this very uncomfortably.
But Nigeria is from...
But let's show it. Which party affiliates? Where are we on this? Here.
Yes, that one.
Yeah.
And it has all the mushiness, it has all the mud, it has like caked blood. Like caked blood, really. But I put some of those
I prefer
pinks.
dusty pink.
Yes,
Yeah.
those pinks. I put some of no. I want to find joy, even there is some humor even in the worst of situations, and it's my work starts from it originates from the politics inside of the space where I grew up, where I have a total familiarity with it. But other spaces, I feel I'm sort of an outsider, so I hesitate to talk about other spaces so much. But I bring in my own voice about the rubbish happening like in my country, and that was part of what I gave up. I gave up, like thinking about figuring out this country, accepting all the value systems they had and all that. I felt there has to be something, better. There has to be something more, bigger aspirations and all that. Because at some point, Nigeria seemed a bit too small for me. And I was thinking, okay, there must be something out there. It wasn't like I wasn't traveling before I left. I relocated to Cote d'Ivoire. Before then, I was just going, but at some point I said, look, I'm going to give it some space for a while. Because I know, and this has been my biggest joy has been the opportunity of the lessons I'm learning, because I'm going to take it back home. There's a saying in my village that, Ishinyeza ni anade na Ishinyeza na anade nozo. So the head of a prince doesn't stay away in foreign lands. So I know that I'm taking all this back to my village. All of the lessons, all of the encounters, all of the ideas I'm getting from here. I believe strongly it's a learning moment, and it's, when you spoke about the Biafran War and all that, I lost an uncle. My other uncle is right here. My father's brother. He's here. He's here. So, but
He just walked by this.
yeah.
And he's
So,
claiming his seat back. Yeah.
yeah. So I lost an uncle during that war. He was a major in the Biafran War. Then I lost two of my auntie.
Quickly, I'm not everybody here. I assume not every single person knows the Biafran War. Give it to us in a sentence.
Well, it was the southern part of Nigeria, which was populated by the Igbo tribe. They started feeling the sense that they were disconnected from everything happening in Nigeria. They were not being represented in seats of power and all of that. They were feeling marginalized. So, the war started with them fighting with the rest of Nigeria. They wanted to leave the union. They wanted to leave the union. And this union is that union that was forced on us by the colonialists, basically. Did you ever hear of this thing of Berlin Conference? Yeah, the Berlin Conference was all about, okay, this land belongs to this person, belongs to that person, and then suddenly two brothers become neighbors. They become, strangers to each other because you've drawn these lines and all that. So we just didn't feel comfortable with all of that. And till today, some of the beginnings, the troubled beginnings of my country is still what I believe is haunting us big time, because we don't really speak the same language in so many ways. And we borrowed, guess what? We borrowed democracy, but for me, it's foreign to me. That's not how my grandfather used to rule. That's not how kings.
You're looking at a crown prince.
No, it's not. I'm not yet. I've not been crowned. Have I been?
A crown prince.
Yeah, well.
To be crowned.
Yes. Yeah. So I am in line to be
We're gonna have
king.
to step up the volume here a little. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to yeah. Maybe I'll become king if the gods ordain that. Yeah. Because they cast laws and all that. Yes. So but the thing about how we ruled was the king is the one that takes care of the people, in terms of he doesn't get paid a dime. He doesn't get like how the beautiful queen gets all the taxes and all that. The king in my village pays. He gives people. You don't give him a dime. You don't. He doesn't collect from you. And he's not elected. It's just rotated amongst families.
And in your village, you said sharing is the norm, and almost everybody is related somehow.
Totally, yeah. It's almost. It's weird. We're like, but enough distance, enough distance to get. No, but at some point, I just knew I would not get married in my village, because my grandfather had 13 wives. So when he died, my mother had 36 living sisters. I don't know a lot of my cousins now. I don't. I gave up long ago. So when they say, I just smile, yeah. So, but sharing, it comes out in my work. You notice, like, nothing stands alone. Nowhere. I think so strongly.
Let's look at this piece. Most eyes are on the piece behind us. Tell us about this in terms of what you just described. No one stands alone, for sure, here.
No one. And it's that sharing where it's a communal thing. It's really about us coming together and giving energy, but giving energy to the space becomes what makes us stand out. So it's not about this person or that person. So it's became kind of a strange thing for me, the way Western art kind of presents authority and presents, prominence and all that. Because that's not how it plays out in my part of the world. It plays out with you just contributing your quota. And the biggest person in my village during harvest takes from his pocket and feeds the entire village. That's the king. My grandfather, his father, will take from his pocket and entertain the entire village for 3 days. There is cooking, and that's the only time he ever dances. So he stands up and everyone will be sitting. He never stands, he's usually seated, and you stand up or bow down or lie down to greet him. So for me, power and authority and prominence was all about service. Who gives the most to the space? Who gives the most? And not who takes the most from the space. So it's always about sharing. And when you asked about this one, the thing about this one, the title of this one, you remember? One from among you. Mm-hmm. It draws, sometimes it's with religion sometimes coming into my head, and I'm like, I have all these ideas coming up, and I think also how in the election here, I felt strongly it was an American that was elected. It was one from amongst us that was elected. In my country also, it's we choose who we want to become our face. And I appreciate that so much. So you're thinking about what's going to be best for your space. You want people that will represent you the most. So I see all of that happening. And when I see, it comes from a place, every time when I'm looking at other democracies, other places where leadership plays out and all that, I say, it's their thing. I know how my own is supposed to be. So I bring in mine, I bring in a sense of community, I bring in a sharing of space where it's not this person sticking out like a sore thumb.
Now you said in a number of ways several times that you're bringing your evolution of your Uli Igbo, very powerful base, to become a major artist in Africa with your own style, incorporating, but very distinctive style. Coming to the United States, you said, yes, you're fusing, but it's an uncomfortable fusion. Why?
Sometimes you look in the mirror and you're asking yourself, am I still that person? Am I selling myself? It's uncomfortable because it's been about reinventing, rebuilding from scratch. So in Nigeria, I was good. So I had to start from point zero. I was doing things I did like 20-something years back. 20-something years ago, I was trying to sell your painting, trying to get galleries to look at you and all that. And I'm like, for real? But so it was painful, but that pain became a moment where I grew in strength in ways that surprised even me. I've seen it happen that I let myself get into these places of pain, but the new me that emerges is much more different, much more better, I believe, than I was yesterday. It's really about context and like my sense about Uli, my sense about my body of work, about being in a space and all that. I have new perspectives that I would ordinarily had not known, I wouldn't have appreciated. I would have just been like, okay. And I hear it a lot. I hear who I could be from the noise coming from Nigeria. We all, everybody from some of these cultures, we know that the noise is coming on your WhatsApp right now. You know, all those meetings, all those families everywhere, where, you know. So I hear all that and I said to myself, so this is who I would have been. This is who I could have been. And being here allows me, more breathing space and to have more perspective on stuff. So it's really, you know that saying, like, no pain, no gain. It's been a lot of that. But I'm blessed.
You have a remarkable community, and I would imagine also in Nigeria when you were with the African, remind me the name of the center.
Which one?
Where you were managing?
African Foundation for the Arts.
Yes,
Yeah.
that must have been quite collaborative with an. How important is it for you living here from another part of the world and really fusing what you got and who you are into a very different culture? What kind of touchstones are here? I will tell you one thing, and I tell this story with great glee. When we had your opening, there were people who came here individually who responded. Why? Because he's equal. That was the number one and only reason, and they wanted to see this art. And when they got here, they met each other. They didn't know each other, they just met each other. And by the end of the evening in this bay, we had giggling and hugging and cameras flashing, 5 or 6 people who had never met before but came here because of community. And you have a lot of communities. Talk about that a bit as an artist.
You know, it was imbibed, it was spoken into my life. So I was maybe 13 years old, and my grandfather was king then. And he came one of those days. I was in his room with him, and he sat me on a stool. He's on the bed, and he said to me, don't forget who you are. You're the son of a king.
Don't forget who you are. You're the son of a king.
Don't forget who you are. You're the son of a king. It stuck with me, and I'm like looking at this man, and I'm like, I'm supposed to be playing and asking for sweets and all that, and this man is, candy. But it stuck with me, so it became like something that kept an anchor. So I would go crazy, but just stop, just before going overboard. And every time that sense of responsibility never left me. And when you said you want to talk about, it comes from my father taught us about valuing togetherness and community. He was trying to really connect me with the traditions of our people. And our people, all the festivals, the celebrations is all about us, community. And as a child, it was our vacation. It was, the most important times of our life, because we were together as a family and we were traveling. At some point, we lived 30 minutes from my village. So we would travel and go to the village for those things, because as king, my grandfather needed all his family around him when he celebrates these festivals of seasons and all of that.
How many people, I'm afraid to ask?
From my grandfather? No, that's my father's father. That one he wasn't that. No, he wasn't that. He had 9 kids at some point.
Your uncle was not in the gallery.
He didn't have so many children and wives. It was my mother's father. But that one, I think it was understandable. Let me just say this: it was the agrarian times. It was about cultivating, having big farmlands. My grandfather had so much land, so he needed people to help cultivate the lands and all that. So, and then there's the tradition of inheriting your father's wives. So he inherited some of his father's wives also.
He inherited his father's wives, who were older than he.
Yeah, they were older than him, but
yeah.
it became in the
Family.
in the cultural context. It was what made it, mandated you to take care of the woman and the children when the father dies, because the tradition is also that the first son inherits everything. So you have 30 children, your first son gets everything. So what happens to all your wives? What happens to all your other children and all that? So they have this formula that helps allow the son to know, this is my responsibility right now, So that was continuity, and that was community, and that was me every time. And so when I got to the US and I found out about Torpedo Factory, I was like, okay, I'm home now, And I would be like painting, and you look out through my window and you see the Potomac River. I'm like, oh God, this is my village.
But as you were looking at it, you're seeing the Potomac, but before you see that, you have a big screen with the lake region flashing images from his computer. So clearly you're not too far away from home. You have two lakes to look at, two bodies of water.
Yes.
Two bodies of water.
Well, I think I keep carrying home in ways, I carry, and that was really the thing about my work also. I did a lot of photography, even professionally. I covered, some fashion shows, Arise Fashion Show. I've covered some international fashion shows. But
looking at the body, looking at the dress, looking at the whatever's being.
Getting close. I love getting close. So I also draw very well, and maybe you won't see in my work, but I wanted that familiarity that somehow you will sense it. The gestures, the fluidity of the lines, it doesn't stop. You will sense that I really am aware, I know what is there, So I do, I have models come in and do very realistic work about them. And then the photographs, how you're editing and you zoom in and, oh, there's a pimple on her face. So it allows me this closeness, and I can walk away and have a sense of you without you being present anymore.
Three sisters.
The sisters. Yeah.
The many sisters, maybe more than three.
No, it's more than three.
Talk to us about the form and the connection between these folks.
It's also that storytelling about how we have meetings, we have birthdays and all that, and they all come out in Ashwebi. They wear the same clothes. You see 500, 200 people, the same colors, It's really about showing up for one another, showing up for each other. So when you just look, you just see a flash of this color, and they are all dancing. It's all that remembering for me. It's what I tried to create there. And I had been working on it for a while. I got stuck. When I got stuck, I walked away. Then one day, there was an event. It was some sorority, some black sorority. And they said they wanted, to use the Torpedo Factory. When I just started looking at their flyers and all that, and it came back to me. I said, these are those women. And that's when I signed it. yeah. So that's when I signed it. It just worked like that.
That's great.
Yeah. So I've seen this happen a lot of the time where my work has closure. So on St. Patrick's Parade Day, I was painting, and it was on an unusual palette. because for a long time I hadn't done a green palette and all that, and it was a green palette. I was working on it, and then I signed it on that parade day. I didn't realize what I had done till I went to have a drink, and they
It was
gave
green.
me green. And I said, "Oh," So all of these coincidences, it just keeps me feeling that I have a sense of where I am, even if I'm not really like thinking about it and all that.
Deliberate, but you weren't deliberate, yeah. We're gonna open it up to questions. Anybody have a question, a comment, an appreciation? You folks are very kind to stand. No chairs for you? All right. Ah, I hear you, I hear you. Yes, please, identify yourself if you would.
Yeah, I'm Ellen Bateman Tanner, and Anthony, we met at the drawing class. But you're.
Anthony is the alias now.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I liked your work then, when I saw it immediately, and I'm thrilled to be here tonight to see the big paintings, because I didn't have a chance to. Anywho, the painting behind you, I already told you, drew me here. What I find fascinating about it is the balance of brushwork, shapes, detail versus swaths. Talk a bit about that whole process, so that when you approach a canvas, and I've seen your drawings, I've seen you draw. Is it a slash? Is it you slash through and then build? Just talk a bit about your process.
So how do I get the hardest question?
Have your secret sauce.
Let me give the quick answer.
Sure.
The quick answer is that if I have figured out my creative process, I will be so wealthy. Because I will just turn it on and I create the masterpiece, right? Man, I've been doing it for like 27 years. It comes from different ways. I don't know. So when you ask about process, creative process, it changes. It keeps changing. And dynamism is something I love, because for me, I don't want to feel that I'm repeating myself. I became an artist because I kept on thinking about doing something new. So I didn't strive to make a first class, and it was there for me to take, because I wanted to just do something new every time. It wasn't about, okay, this is the nice thing that will make you the first class. That's boring for me. That wasn't the intention when I became an artist. Becoming an artist meant for me seeing differently, seeing every day in a unique way. So I keep switching it, and switching it has been what has kept me on. He knows me from when I was like teaching, and I was maybe 12 years old, and I would be teaching my fellow classmates about art and all of that. I was the president of the arts club at that time, right? And that restlessness, he knows. I was the one that wasn't going to sleep with every other person. I would go and sleep in the forest. I would just go away. Sometimes they just couldn't put a finger where I was. But I still made good grades. I made good grades. But pushing my work has always been about trying something I haven't done before. And I
think it's a fascinating answer, because we represent probably over 100 artists now. And a number of them love to paint the same thing. And I don't know, maybe it's the feeling that they haven't refined that thing enough, and so they keep going at it and at it and at it. Or perhaps they see, maybe they're stuck, or maybe they see a gradation of color, or some kind of something that draws them to repaint the same thing. And then there are others, I've never heard it described this way, which is an artist has to see and drive and ideate, and it's always something new. It's always a new, fresh perspective, which is why you had a hard time finishing
Yeah,
this.
exactly. When you say that,
That's a tough answer to your question. It's a good answer.
when you say that, right? And this, I'll be honest, I have been surprised. at the similarity in the gestures in my work that speaks about the style. Really, I have been surprised in, but it's not been something I sought to do. But when I looked through my body of work, and that was also why I enjoyed the opportunity of having it in this space and all that. When I looked through all of that, it's like I see the things that are being repeated, the lines, the gestures and all that. And it gives me, and when you were like selecting the body of work for this show, I liked how you sought specific pieces. I've seen, curators that are like very deliberate in the way they are curating shows and all that. And I love, they are not distracted by the little shiny things around. They just stick, and it speaks to how they are following your style and how the gestures all connect together to tell a story. So for me, that has always, I have done everything that you have ever done when you're painting. I have woken up and been inspired. I have hit my head on the floor and lost it.
Everything in between, yes.
So I'm just.
And identify yourself.
Oh, Sue Knudsen.
Another painter.
Yep, and I know you're from the Torpedo Factory. I'm just familiar with a lot of the work I've seen at your studio at the Torpedo Factory. You've been painting for 27 years. Have they always been, and I hate to label it as abstracted figurative, but have figures always been the key elements in your work, or has it evolved, especially since you've been here?
Well, I have series where it's about plains, and that one is 1,000 Cattle, 2 Hills, where it's you have a lot of plains in the work, and the gestures are around really about ecological concerns. It's a body of work that speaks to the conflicts in Nigeria between the farmers and the cattle rearers. So the cattle rearers are the ranchers, but there is free grazing in Nigeria. So the Fulanis are the cattle rearers, and so they have these conflicts with farmers because the cattle go into their farms. When they come from the north where it gets dry at some point, they go in. So I was thinking about space and how these conflicts happen, ownership of space. So sometimes it's really about a lot of planes, fewer lines. But when it's with humans, I can't get over the fact of community, of crowds. I'm attracted to crowded places. I'm that person that will sleep in the center of Times Square. I'll be good.
Interesting. Madam.
Natalie Jaresco, thank you very much. This is amazing. Can I ask you, even though you've described your life as a journey and it's unplanned and it's new and the newness brings you ideas, do you intend to go home? Is there something that would cause you to go back home?
If I have to.
What does your name mean?
Chukwudinma.
What does it mean?
God is good. When you say, would I go home? I'm home. I'm home here. And if I come to your place, it will be home for me. So it's not about, I at some point in my journeys, I have had trouble walking. I have been sick for long times in my life. You have accidents when you're moving fast, right? So I have had a few, right? And I've come to realize that home is not a place, it's here. You have to find peace inside of yourself. So I make this home and live inside of it, but I promise you, I could walk away and still feel at home somewhere else. But one thing that I am assured about is that I'm going back to my village at some point to share these fruits, the fruit of these journeys. It's, when I talk about this, and when you speak about these journeys, let me point to someone, a historic figure, Mansa Musa. And he was this great man. But it was his traveling that opened Africa to the rest of the world. When he took that journey to Mecca and started dropping all his gold along the way and crashed the economy of the world, the gold and all of that. Suddenly people realized, oh, so there's gold in this place. So I've come with everything I have come, and I keep saying to myself that I'm an ambassador of my people. And I think everyone should see him or herself as an ambassador of wherever, or, a representative of where you're coming from. So I want to give my best, but ambassador even in the spiritual sense, because a lot of my upbringing, I had Christianity and all of that. So at some point I read John Bunyan's Pilgrim's Progress. So I carry it with me as a traveler. I keep saying to myself, I'm a traveler. This is a temporary place, it's a temporary state. There's something more, there's something beyond the physical, this tiny space. And I want to own all of that, So it's that flexibility for me, That's what, going back, it's not a problem for me.
1, 2, 1.
Hi, my name is Ilse. I'm a neighbor and fan of the Amy Kaslow Gallery. I wondered if you could talk for a second or two. There's a gentleman's head right behind you.
Is what?
A gentleman's head. Can you talk about that? Anything about it? How it came to be, or who it might be, or who was intended or not?
It's,
Did
You-
everybody
you
hear
know-
that? Did everybody hear that question about this figure?
well, it's, the title is actually straight from the Bible. You guys, right? One from among you.
Can
And
you repeat that, please?
straight from the Bible.
Straight from the Bible.
One from among you. So I will choose one from among you.
Mhm.
That's what the Bible says. So it's also about the calling of David. Where he was not the one. He wasn't even on the table. And they had to go into the field to get that man. One from among you. And it could come from the most unlikely of places. The one that will lead. And so it became about, you don't need to bring this person that is going to control all of you. It has to be something that is chosen for everyone's good. And so yeah.
Jeremy Bentham, principal. That was a beautiful answer. It was a great question. We'll get to you in 2 secs, right around the corner.
Jim Herson, now the proud owner of Brother Cletus and Man with a Cap. I wanted to ask you quickly about something you said earlier about coincidences, because it seems very interesting to me. You say all these coincidences make it feel real. I think you may have been talking about coincidences in this, artistic journey that seems almost kind of paradoxical. I just want to
Would you say paradoxical or?
Coincidence
like coincidences don't always, sometimes it sort of, it makes things feel less real. If there are all these coincidences, you think maybe this is gonna be reality.
No, but for a long time I felt that I died a long time ago. So now I'm living a dream. I'm living like a spirit. So I'm not here. I'm just experiencing stuff. So it's like an out of the body experience for me when these things happen. And I notice sometimes when they are happening, it looks like it's planned. It looks like it had to happen. I could shoot out a few things that just look like it. Like my studio, for instance. My mom's favorite color is purple. What's the color of the door in my studio in Torpedo Factory? Purple. So I got in there. My mom is dead now. So I got in there and I'm like, whoa, so my mom is around. So, and really, coincidences come almost instinctively for the creative person because we read between the lines. We're looking at the details. But every other person is like, oh, it's different. No. That leaf, the trees, the way they move and all that, they are gestures that the human body tries to kind of emulate when we dance and.
I think, wow, I'm gonna throw in 2 cents. I think art is coincidence. I do. But I'm a photographer.
Happy coincidence.
Okay. Oh dear, but that was a really good question. Yeah, really interesting. Wowza. Yes, 1, 2.
Thank you. My name's Emily. I'm new-ish to the art world. I just want to let you know that I love your work and I love the storytelling and the color and the movement. When I meet creative people, I like to kind of connect it to a joyful, like, unpack it. Is there a joyful inner child experience that, without getting too personal, is there a relationship or an experience that kind of is reflected in your work from your youngest years?
Okay, I'm gonna distill this quickly for those who may not have heard. Is there, is his work somehow a distillation of your youth, your experience in your younger years?
I carry all my memories with me all the time. Every meeting I've had are in those paintings. All the stories are every life I've lived, every person I've met. Brother Cletus is someone I know. The man with a cap, see, I've started wearing these things, So it's the storytelling. You've become part of my story. I won't forget these things. I try not to forget. I try to hold on to all of the connections, the people I've danced with, I want to hold on to all of those moments. It becomes an opportunity to live those moments again. It's for me a way to live forever, to never go young. I never forget the yellow of the shirt of this man that used to teach us boxing. I was maybe 4 years old, back in my village. I never forgot, I didn't learn much in boxing, but I remember I was in the field, I didn't learn, I'm not physical, but I believe strongly, and this is where, like, my style, when you talk about the work I do, has been really affected. I believe strongly in tapping into the unconscious, the subconscious mind, memory, and sometimes I'm trying to dig into childhood memories for material to move forward. Because inside of those places you find a lot of innocence, you find a lot of no biases. and it's been joyful, like when you have 2 people, maybe a 2-year-old child and an 8-year-old child painting in your studio. Who do you think will finish first? Can somebody say?
2-year-old.
Exactly. But the 8-year-old is still trying to draw the man, but the 2-year-old finished like 10 hours ago. And I keep hoping that I reconnect to my inner child every time I create.
Pure joy, pure joy. Over here. What's your name, please?
Hi, I'm
Christina.
part-time artist, full-time lawyer. Thank you so much.
I love this part-time artist, full-time lawyer. We'll help you reverse the equation.
No, that's my story, right? I'm the reverse. My dad wanted me to be a lawyer.
Well, I listened to my dad.
I didn't.
Well, thank you so much for sharing the story. It's really, really fascinating. I'm gonna go back to the very first question about your creative process, because as you see, this is also personal. My question is, you're an artist that has not been very
Nice question, but you think highly of me. I don't. I let go. I let go. So I start with this one. I'm on it, and suddenly a bird flies across the window, and I'm like, oh, nice bird. I go with it. So sometimes I have like 10 pieces. I'm working on 10 pieces at the same time. Because I am relying so much on memory, because I'm relying, you know that thing you said about coincidences. Let me say it's because I'm relying so much on the accidental. I believe in happy accidents, and I believe strongly also that if I have a mindset about how this is gonna emerge and all that, if it lingers in my memory for a little bit, then it has an authenticity that needs to come out, to show up into the world, you know. But if it's just a whim because someone came in with a red shirt into my studio and suddenly, oh, it might look nice, and if I have stayed for a while and I don't remember that red shirt, then it doesn't stay on the canvas. So that's really for me how I work. So I'm not like this, and when I do realism, for instance, it's a different thing. You know, I put myself in that box. I need to get your eyelashes. I need to get how your hair move, the lines of your hair. I do that. But I want to be free. That's why I chose art instead of law.
I think we got time for one more question, and would you identify yourself, please?
Vita, and I know
Vita,
Anthony.
you are an artist.
I'm an artist.
Okay.
And you know, I'm listening to all of your words, and what strikes me so much about your work is it's like you've been a student of your life, and it's like this community and the traditions from your family and from your culture. It's like it's so enmeshed inside of you, and the connection that you talk about. One of our first conversations was about community, and it was about giving. I remember the story you told me about that if somebody was powerful and had a lot of money, but they didn't share, that was not an important person. And so I just wanted to remark on, I see so much continuity in your work, this expression, and I just wondered if you wanted to speak a little bit about this. It's like that every man, that every woman, it really is universal. So I just wanted to ask about that, and how that strikes you.
Well, you know, it's the thing you say. I want to thank you for observing that, but I believe so strongly that these ideas come from me looking closely again at you, you know, just my immediate environment. I'm finding these small pockets of community, how they interact in places like Torpedo Factory, you know, in whatever place you're in your workspace. And I see the similarity. We're not really that different, but I want to end with art, and this is the advocacy I'm doing with my work, is that I put it to you, I bring it up front and say to you, this is a product of me and you in the community. It's not, I'm not trying, like, and even my work, I want my work to be familiar, to have a sense that you could read it and still think about a lot of the masters that you know about in the Western culture and all that. I want you to feel that it's something you can identify with. That, you know, it's a vulnerable place, you know, because it means, okay, you're not doing anything new and all that, but no, for me, the newness of it is, it's my voice. I never lost myself in all of the noise. And then I'm telling the stories the way I'm seeing it, stories around immigration, migration, the human body, love, you know, family, dancing, you know. I can't stop, you know.
It's beautiful.
Don't stop. Thank you for coming. I have a couple of notes. What are my notes? What are my notes? There you go. I do want to thank Jordan Lee, who's our gallery director, who is, and really just, my other half in the gallery. Great work on this exhibition and on this talk, and Anna Kate, thank you so much. Anna Kate, and Anoush, is Anoush there?
Yes.
Where's that? Anoush, Ty, yep, hello, yep. We're here. So, that's a lot of clapping, thank you very much for coming. And thank you for coming, and we look forward to seeing you soon, and peace be with you, and stay positive.
I want to say thank you to,
Oh,
no, to Amy for finding me, you know. And for the show, it blew me away, you know. I came and I felt like I could live here. It's not that she closes the door.
Another place you can live.